Hello, listeners. Welcome to our English program podcast, Kaleidoscope. Listeners, in our today's program, we have a talk on the topic Law and Literature. And for giving this talk, we have with us Dr Anagha Baldota. She works as an assistant professor in DES Shri Navalmal Firodia Law College, Pune. She has published and presented research papers in language, law, and literature at state, national, and international levels. She has also designed programs for spoken English, development of soft skills, advocacy skills, and parliamentary debate skills. She is also an avid traveler and a trekker. So, listeners, let us listen to this talk on the topic Law and Literature, given by Dr. Anagha Baldota.
Hello friends, it's absolutely an honor to discuss one of the intriguing trends in modern era, law and literature, on the prestigious platform of Akashvani. Understanding the nuances of law through stories, dramas, articles, poetry is certainly a new dimension of studying literature. Knowledge is an entity that should be studied as a whole. But friends, for our convenience, we have segregated various streams of knowledge because one life is not enough to learn and assimilate entire knowledge. Therefore, considering aptitude and attitude of heterogeneous group of individuals, various streams are framed. However, I think the most powerful, omnipresent, omnipotent and omniscient stream is law. There is nothing that is not touched, regulated and governed by law. Since ages, law practice has remained one of the noble practices because law offers remedy to wrong and reward to right. At the same point, the complex legal jargons, Latin maxims, critical judgments, and especially practical technicalities scare common man. Understanding of law and legalities is not really everyone's cup of tea. I have witnessed this hardship faced by many law students as well as the junior advocates in struggling to connect facts with law and then producing it in the form of courtroom protocol. Why this is so? Dear friends, first reason is that we have borrowed our law system from UK. Moreover, English language that we learn in general sense does not match legal English that lawyers use in day-to-day life. So, law remains the prerogative of law fraternity only. We say law is meant for the betterment of the society at large. It should bring harmony by implementing rule and order. But this suits classes. What about the masses? The masses who should actually know the power of law, they remain deprived of basic knowledge of law. Nonetheless, law, instead of bringing some harmony, law becoming their guardian, it becomes a threat to them because they ignore it. Therefore, teaching law through literature can make law palatable for such people. Let's consider street play. Aren't they convincing? In fact, they give loud and clear message to the common man and as well as the society at large. Therefore, it helps us to spread legal awareness as well as legal literacy. We really feel that we should be the change what we want. So, law can be easily conveyed to the masses through the medium of literature. What is literature? Literature is a reflection of socio-political, economic upheavals in the surrounding. Literature is all about human, and so is the law. Law is meant for reasoning human conflicts, and that too in a judicious manner. Law also intends to curb the social ills by spreading awareness of right and wrong. This legal literacy is easily possible through the means of various literary genres. Literary legends like Shakespeare, Francis Bacon, Charles Dickens, John Galsworthy, Franz Kafka, they chose to write on legal themes. Even in India, Lokmanya Tilak, Veer Savarkar, Babasaheb Ambedkar have created legal literature. Probably they intend not only to entertain people but also to educate them in simple ways. Such kind of edutainment naturally invites readers' attention as well as their involvement, which encourage them to think rationally, logically, without any bias and act lawfully. In fact, I feel we can read any literature as a legal text because law is a common sense. Every piece of literature depicts this common sense. This common sense, basic prudence, is easily discussed, interpreted, analyzed, and conveyed by way of different genres of literature. And that's why the study of law and literature in combination becomes vital. The movement of law and literature is one of the most vital developments in modern era, as well as in the intellectual history of law. James Boyd White's The Legal Imagination, which was published in 1973, is often credited with initiating the law and literature movement. It is a fusion of anthologies, critics, drawing on a various range of sources with headnotes and questions on the relationship of legal texts to literary analysis and literary texts to the legal issues that they explore. Proponents of law in literature theory, such as Richard Wisberg and Robert Wisberg, believe that literary works, especially narratives centered on legal conflict, offer lawyers and judges insights into nature of law and very important aspect, that is jurisprudential aspect of law. This perspective examines and interprets legal texts using the techniques of literary critics. That means I am referring to the theories of legal research as well as literary research. Scholars like White, Ronald Durkin apply law as literature because they maintain that the meaning of legal texts such as written law, that is statutes, acts, like rules and regulations. So all these are nothing but the different genre of literature, and that can be discovered only through its interpretation. These interpretations are definitely the matters of contentious areas. Why? Because there are a growing doubt about whether law in isolation is a source of value and meaning, or whether it must be plugged into a large cultural or philosophical or social science context to give it value and meaning. This is the real concern of the intellects and critics. Second important aspect of this study is the growing focus on the mutability of meaning in all texts, whether literary or legal. As a teacher, I would distribute this study into two complementary perspectives. First, law in literature, that is understanding issues as they are explored in literary texts. And second, law as literature, that is understanding legal texts with literary interpretation, analysis, and critic. Let me cite the connection between law and literature. To understand the association of law with literature, it is crucial to understand what literature is. According to Oxford Dictionary, literature is defined as written works, especially those considered of superior or lasting artistic merit, or books and writings published on a particular subject. Now, these definitions obligate us to ask whether legal text can be classified as literature. Can bare text or bare acts, courtroom judgments, commentaries, and the Constitution of India be considered as piece of literature? In my opinion, yes. Bare acts are part of literature. Courtroom judgments are literature. The Constitution of India is a classic piece of literature too. Adhering to the given definition of literature, the Constitution of India is a phenomenal piece of literature as it is the longest written constitution and is the supreme law of India. Similarly, bare acts, courtroom judgments are books or writings published on the subject of law. Therefore, these texts can be regarded as legal literature. This idea of legal literature unfolds the dimension of law as literature. In the eyes of law, all are equal. And the same is true in literature as well. Literature humanizes people. While law sees us as subjects of legal exchange, literature is experienced by imagination, ingenuity, variation, and interpretation. And it is a profusion of genres. Therefore, we can call it as an inclusive entity in general. What is law? The concept of law, on the other hand, we can consider that law is known for its consistency, logical comprehension, reach, a consistent pattern, and a manner of drafting and a wide range of divisions. So to say, law and literature is a blend of fact and fantasy. When these both, law and literature, become one entity, it certainly has a diverse and dynamic relationship. In recent years, this relationship got serious attention across the globe. English lawyers and legal luminaries such as John Wigmore and Benjamin Cardozo in the 19th century wrote about Shakespeare, Dickens, and other popular authors, representations of legal system. Lawyers in 1973 have been encouraged to read the well-established authors to put perspective ideas of the human condition and everyday experiences after the publication of James Boyd White's The Legal Imagination. There have been countless books and articles examining the role of law in Shakespeare's plays or Dostoevsky's, Melville's, Kafka's, and Albert Camus' novels. I mean, one can teach and learn legal history across the globe from such accounts. For instance, let's say comparative analysis. That is, scholars can use the interdisciplinary approach by comparing legal themes and principles in different literary works. For example, comparing the themes of justice, punishment, morality in literary works. Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice, a 16th century play, addresses the then system of law and justice, laws for Venetians and foreigners, contract, equity, moiety, part and parcel, and most importantly, the racial crisis. On the other hand, 20th century play by John Galsworthy, that is Justice, which is a social satire. It depicts on domestic violence, societal pressure on women seeking divorce, ratio of crime and punishment, punitive and reformative judicial actions, etc. The Silver Box by John Galsworthy is also one such kind of play, and therefore we can be in the position of comparing all the kind of texts which give us the evolution of law across the globe as well as throughout the centuries. Scholars can gain a deeper understanding of the evolution of legal system. Tracing back to the history of British literature in 13th century, Chaucer's writing also gives us insights of legal issues. The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. This is the collection of stories that offer a vivid portrayal of medieval English society, including the legal practices and judicial systems of the time. Through characters such as Sergeant at Law and the Man of Law, Chaucer provides glimpses of the then legal profession and the administration of justice in medieval England, reflecting the influence of feudal laws, royal authority on legal proceedings. Legal literature is literally voluminous. The rule of law governs human conduct. It should be stable and consistent. It should collect people's intelligence to achieve the aim of order and peace. We may enact justice legislation under these auspices. Even though a few popular classics were written by multiple people, works of law fall under more general authorship because they represent the entire society and its history. You must have heard The Crucible, written in 20th century, set in 17th century America. by Arthur Miller. It was set during the Salem witch trials of the 17th century. Miller's play reflects broader themes of legal injustice, mass hysteria, and the manipulation of legal processes for political gain. By exploring the role of courts in condemning innocent individuals based on hearsay and false accusations, the Crucible criticizes the failing of legal system in safeguarding justice and individual rights. Similarly, Toni Morrison's Beloved analyzes the themes of racial discrimination and civil rights, which can prompt discussions on the role of the law in addressing systemic inequalities. Literature exposes social injustices and calls for legal reform. Literature has been a powerful tool for advocating social change and justice, and legal issues are often central to the narratives of social activism, which can become a whistleblowing act for initiating a positive change. Franz Kafka, the criminal lawyer and a commendable author of Metamorphosis, The Trial, is known for focusing on modern issues like absurdity of life, isolation, alienation, delays, leading to generation of crime. In his parable, Before the Law, he comments on unapproachability and inaccessibility of law. Legal professionals have always cited literature to advocate the point of views. I would love to share that at Mountain Echoes Literary Festival, Jerry Pinto, an Indian poet with a degree in law, said, "All law is an interpretation of literature. When you are reading law as a lawyer or as a judge, what you are doing is making up your mind about the spirit and the letter of law that you are reading. So, the act of law is an act of literature. It is an act of interpretation of literature." The statement of Pinto brings out the captivating similarity between the two fields, that is, law and literature. Both law and literature deal with society at large. Many supporters of law and literature movement argue that the lawsuits are like stories in novels, dramas, and short stories. From a literary lens, the facts of legal proceedings can be seen as storyline, and the parties involved in the case as characters of those stories upon whom certain obligations are met to do or abstain from doing something by law. May it be complex ethical dilemmas that mirror real-life legal dilemmas. Exploring how characters navigate these dilemmas can offer insights into the moral and ethical foundations of the law. For example, discussing the moral implications of vigilant justice in Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird can lead to discussions on the limits of the legal system in addressing social injustices. Literature can provide nuanced portrayals of lawyers, judges, and other legal professionals, offering insights into their roles, motivations, and ethical dilemmas. These are quite important issues, aspects of advocacy. Analyzing the character of Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird can provoke discussions on the responsibilities and challenges of legal practitioners in upholding justice. That's actually a pathetic systemic tragedy. On the same line, I remember The Bet, written in 19th century by a Russian author, Anton Chekhov. In his short story, Chekhov explores the consequences of a wager between a banker and a young lawyer over the length of a man's imprisonment. Through the lawyer's voluntary confinement for 15 years to win the bet, Chekhov criticizes the arbitrariness and dehumanizing the effects of legal systems, punitive measures, and questions the true value of freedom and material gain in the face of legal constraints. Another crucial angle of this is a psychological dimension of the study. Literature often delves into the psychological dimensions of legal processes, procedures, including the impact of legal proceedings on individuals' mental state as well as identities of human beings. With the help of literary works, scholars can explore the emotional and psychological toll of legal battles. For instance, discussing the themes of guilt and redemption in Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment that can illuminate the psychological consequences of legal guilt and moral responsibility. It's also argued that law is not within literature but outside it. That means it shows up after the analysis. It shows up after the crime is over. Literature does not surpass law, but it supplements it. With changing time, people of law need new and unique ways of teaching, interpreting, understanding, and arguing legal aspects. Friends, Goodreads is a vast topic, and I am sure you would also love to dive deep into literary waters. So, in next session, we would discuss interesting and intriguing literary instances to justify the study of law and literature. Thank you.
So listeners, that was the first part of the program, Law and Literature, a talk by Dr. Anagha Baldota. Hope you enjoyed this program. We will be back with the second part of this program. Until then, thanks for listening and please stay tuned as our next program follows.